Sports reports, no gimmicks, no clowns. 2-5, Mr. Logical, we run this town. Real talk only, no chasing, no doubt. From the east to the west, it's the order we shout. Mic check, lights flash, game time, stay ready. 2 vets in the zone, keep the pressure real heavy. Big hits, big plays, yeah, we breaking it down. Truth rings in your speakers, every word is the crown. From the north side hustle to that southern flame. Midwest grind, west coast of the game. Sports talk kings, yeah, we wear that crown. Turn it up, let them know it's about to go down. Sports reports, no gimmicks, no clowns. 2-5, Mr. Logical, we run this town. Real talk only, no chaser, no doubt. From the east to the west, it's the order we shout.
It's about to go down.
Yes. 2-5 is here. Sports Reports is ordered is in the building. I'm in your ears. I'm on your screens. Look, I was driving home today, just riding around, minding my business, got a notification, and then I had the reaction. So there was no secret that Jaylen Brown was on the market. But why now and why this? Like, review, subscribe, share, rate, do all the free things, do all the good things. We don't even got time for the liquid death. So, Jaylen Brown to the Philadelphia 76ers for Paul George, 2 firsts and 2 seconds. Yay or nay? How you guys feeling out there about that? Well, I'm going to tell you how I feel. So, you got to start with the history, right? Ever since Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum have been a tandem, nothing but success has followed. Now, I know we live in this ring culture society where they only have one championship, so how successful can they really be, right? Well, they had a string of Eastern Conference Finals appearances to include taking LeBron to Game 7, what I think was the best version of LeBron in his career. You know, and then you did that without Kyrie Irving, who had some kind of nasal surgery, was in a mask, he couldn't play, right? Okay, a couple years go by, 2022. You go to the NBA Finals. You finally get over that hump. Not only do you get over the hump, you go to Oracle and win Game 1. Now, this wasn't the new arena. This was Oracle, where the Warriors won all those championships and blew that 3-1 lead. But this is where they went. And they punched the Warriors in the mouth. Came out early in the fourth quarter, took control of the game. 3-pointer after 3-pointer. 1-0. Series doesn't start till the home team loses. Got us a series, right? Then you get into the 2-1 lead. And then Wardell showed what champions do. He went into TD Garden and put up 43 points. And it was over from there. You know, the Warriors decided to wake up. Okay. So after that, there were talks of Jaylen Brown being in trades for Kevin Durant. All right. Now, I'm not going to try to do any revisionist history here. I'm not going to try to act like Kevin Durant is not a better basketball player than Jaylen Brown. But I don't know if Kevin Durant at that point, and definitely not at this point, is enough to get you over the top. So if I'm Jaylen Brown, I'm sitting here looking at all this saying, why do you hate me? You know, we've made the NBA Finals. We've been running the East for the last 5 or 6 seasons. Why are you trying to get rid of me, right? And this is not even that whole, oh, you believe in Tatum and not me. It's just, what the hell are we doing? All right? So then that trade doesn't go through, but the damage might have been done. So we fast forward. Get to the Eastern Conference Finals against Indiana in 2024. Jaylen Brown made the plays that mattered. You know, he made the pass to Derek White that hit a 3 that sealed one of the games. You know, he had a defensive play that sealed one of the games. Get to Eastern Conference Finals MVP, go to the NBA Finals where you meet up with Luka in Dallas. He put Luka in a cell, right? Won the Finals MVP. And I argue with people all the time that think that Jason Tatum was the MVP. Now, if you're just looking at it from the standpoint of how the team functioned, you have a great argument. You know, he was the facilitator. He led the team in rebounds. He was still scoring 30 points. But the problem is that Jaylen Brown was doing the things that ail him now. He was more efficient than Tatum. I mentioned his defense on Luka, so he absolutely 100% deserved that Finals MVP, and I was an advocate for that in the moment. So from that point, next season comes around, 2025, Jason Tatum gets hurt against the Knicks. Season's over. Okay. Coming to 2026, or I'm sorry, 2025, 2026. What's next? Jason Tatum's out for the year with an Achilles, we thought. Al Horford, gone, walked out with the Golden State. Drew Holiday traded. So this is a Boston team that doesn't resemble that Boston team that made the finals. So I think in a lot of people's minds, Boston was set up to fail, right? No Jason Tatum. What's Jaylen Brown going to do? He's never led a team anywhere. All he did was win 56 games and finish with the 2 seed. Jason Tatum came back, couple of games left into the season. We could get into an argument about whether he messed up the chemistry or not. But obviously, there was a different dynamic because even though he is a willingly deferred player that's willing to defer, he still got to get his shots. He still has to be involved. It's a two-man show, not a one-man show, right? So they get to the playoffs, go up 3-1 on Philly. Embiid comes back. Tatum's hurt. Okay, Philadelphia comes back, wins that series 4-3, 7 games, right? Then it goes, all of a sudden this guy that won 56 games, that was getting MVP votes, blew a 3-1 lead, and now all of a sudden he can't win without Tatum. When Tatum was there, for the first 5.5 games of that series, he got hurt. Game 6, if I remember correctly, and then didn't play in Game 7. Okay. So on a stream, Jaylen Brown talks about how this was the best year of his career, his favorite year. That was the mistake, I think. Not because he said it, because if I'm Jaylen Brown, I showed everybody what I can do. Like a lot of people out here doubted me, and I came out here and averaged 29, 7, and 5. Rounding up, of course. But that's what I averaged. So you can't take that from me. I led a team to 56 wins and the 2 seeds. You know what you haven't seen? You ain't seen Jason Tatum do that. Now, people talk about his turnovers, the tough shots that he takes, how inefficient he is. Every now and again, he still can't dribble with his left hand. Cool. But what does that say about the NBA if he led that team to 56 wins? Now, of course, your analytics will tell you that he wasn't necessarily a great plus when you look at the on and off court. But 56 wins is 56 wins, right? Okay. Now, so he says this thing about this is his favorite. And the reason that he shouldn't have said it was because of the timing. Like if he said it today, maybe we look at it a little bit differently. But coming off of the blown 3-1 lead, this is especially, people in my age group, that 45 and up age, we look at it like, hey, no, the goal is to win. You could have the great year. You could put up numbers all you want, but what was the result? Right? And that's the people that you see on TV, your Stephen A's and people of that ilk, that he's been at war with for the last little bit. So from that standpoint, all these reports have come out about him and how people don't like him around the league, how he won't win MVP, and sometimes will have issues with all NBA because leadership around the league don't like him. This is a guy that's been on the Player Association. This is a guy that teaches at MIT. This is a guy that's damn near an astronaut. People don't like him. Is it because he's outspoken? Jason Tatum, for lack of better words, is the golden child. Now, we get here today. Paul George, who led the Pacers many years ago to the Eastern Conference Finals. He's played well this year, even though he got suspended for 25 games for taking that stuff. But he shot 39% from 3. That gives you an element especially with that team, with their style of play, Joe Mazzulla, that you weren't going to get from Jaylen Brown, right? But then he's 36 years old. He's making a few million short of Jaylen Brown because Jaylen Brown next season is going to make 57. Then he goes up to 61 and then 64.9 before he's eligible for a 2-year extension. Paul George is making 54 next year. So you didn't shed cost in that way. It's negligible. You got your picks for down the road. But now it brings me to a different question. What is Boston doing? And no, this isn't, they got Paul George. It's over. They're going to be a 7 seed. They're going to be a play. No, none of that. But what is the plan? Because Derek White's name has been all around the trade rumors. They brought in Mitchell Robinson today, which should theoretically help with the Embiid problem. But what's the next move? Are they trying to get LeBron? I doubt it. He's already talked about their fans in that city, so that ain't a thing. They're not blowing it up per se and starting over. But is this just a soft reset where this year, just let the chips fall? Let's see what Tatum can do as far as leading this team to the playoffs. And then next summer, we make these moves because I keep mentioning it. Guys like Nikola Jokic, free agent next year. Steph Curry, free agent next year. And I'm not saying that those dudes are going to leave. But hell, you put yourself in position to try. So the next question is, where did you go, Portland? If this is what it took to get Jaylen Brown, you got a whole lot that you could have offered Boston. Now, obviously, Boston would have to want it. You got Scoot Henderson, Shaedon Sharpe. Bring back Drew Holiday, maybe. You know what I mean? Donovan Clingan. Picks. You got picks. So why this deal? And the other part of that is Boston just disrespected Jaylen Brown again. Because they said, we're going to send you down I-95 and we don't care. If we run into you in the playoffs, bring it. That's what Boston said with this deal. Now, for the Philadelphia side of things, if you're a Sixer fan, you're in heaven right now. You ain't been this happy since you heard State Property up at Hot 97. You're sitting there talking about Tyrese Maxey, VJ Edgecombe, and now you're adding Jaylen Brown to that with the time that you do have Joel Embiid because you figure that you ain't going to have them all the time. That's a hell of a team. You know what I mean? And even if Joel Embiid is injured and not around, you're fine. Now, we could see this as a 4-5 matchup, and I'm here for it. You know what I mean? But if I'm Jaylen Brown, I'm looking for blood. You know what I mean? Now, I don't know what Embiid's status is going to be to start the season. I imagine he'll be healthy, but, now you get into this because I don't think that Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown were necessarily having a power struggle. I think that Jason Tatum was good with having a teammate. You know what I mean? Jaylen Brown obviously felt like he was in the shadows. And it's ironic that he got traded for Paul George because I've been talking about how Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown were a better version of what Kawhi and Paul George were supposed to be. So that's kind of ironic. But at the same time, when I look at this, maybe Jaylen Brown has a certain animosity towards Boston and or Jason Tatum that Jason Tatum doesn't feel. Because how could you not? You know what I mean? Like, you've won the Finals MVP. You won the Eastern Conference Finals MVP, and all you hear about this guy is a top 5 player in the league, top 10 player in the league, and people barely got you top 20. Now, I've always said that Jason Tatum was better. He does a lot more things on the basketball court. That rebounding, facilitation that I talked about, plays defense just as well, if not slightly better than Jaylen Brown a lot of times. But I think Jaylen Brown is probably more versatile of who he can defend. I think Jason Tatum has averaged, 30 points in his career. We just saw Brown averaged 29. So my opinion was always that the gap is not that big. This is not a golf-sized gap between the two. It's just more style of play, right? Jason Tatum is the perfect player. I was going to say prototype. That's the word. He's the perfect prototype for this era because he is a bigger, better Paul George. And remember, there was a time where Paul George was viewed as next. Paul George was viewed as LeBron. This is the guy that you got to get through. So here we are. Now, Brad Stevens. Now, the other day, there were all kinds of talks, right? There were thoughts that you could get Evan Mobley for Jaylen Brown. There were thoughts that, hey, can we attach him to this Giannis deal? But then allegedly Milwaukee's owner shot that down because he didn't want to deal with what he just dealt with Giannis, where you're going to come in here after a season or two and go, I want out. Because I don't know too many people that want to be in Cream City in that way. Apparently Giannis did. He just didn't want to play for the team anymore. But if you're Jaylen Brown going to this version of Milwaukee, yeah, you get to lead your own team. But there's the catch, right? You go win, say, 38 games, maybe 41 at most. You're a play-in team. And all the same critics that shit on you again. And now they have actual factual reasons to do it because they're just looking at your record and not your circumstance. Because that's what I've learned over my time in Sports Reports Disordered and just talking to people about sports in general. Is people make all the excuse and provide all the context for the players that they like. And they ignore all that shit when it comes to the person that they don't like. So Jaylen Brown would have been on the receiving end of that. Now, where do we go from here? We'll have to see how the rest of free agency plays out. But as we sit here right now, Philadelphia has an argument to be the second best team in the East because I'm not going to disrespect the Knicks. I know they lost Mitchell Robinson to Boston today. What a pickup by Boston that was. I'm not going to disrespect the Knicks. You know what I mean? They're still the best team until they're not, right? You know what I mean? But now Toronto has Kawhi Leonard. You know, Cleveland's bringing back James Harden, which doesn't move me at all. But what if they do go get LeBron James? Now the East has become very interesting if those things take place. You know what I mean? Atlanta's loading up. You know, making some good moves out here. So the East is going to be fun next year. But at the center of it is what is Jaylen Brown going to do in a new system with a new team where in Boston, you just got hot. Hit 25 threes, chalk up a W. If not, maybe you lose. You tough out a close defensive game. But in Philadelphia, you know, you are going to have an actual point guard in Tyrese Maxey that Jaylen Brown hasn't really had in that way. So they played with Kyrie Irving, as I mentioned earlier, but he missed a lot of time. Drew Holiday was a different type of point guard where he was still kind of off ball. Jason Tatum did a lot of that. You know what I mean? And Drew would just hit the timely shots, take the timely shots. Now in Philadelphia, Maxey is going to be gunning up and down the court. So that's a change for you. But maybe that gets you some easier buckets where you start talking about, hey, he's inefficient. Maybe not. If he's getting 3 to 4 dunks a game off of Maxey, you know, VJ Edgecombe, you know, he starts working on that jumper a little bit. The Sixers are cooking. You know what I mean? Embiid, if he's not there, the floor is open for Jaylen Brown to get to the basket. If he is there, your shots just became a little bit easier, depending because Embiid likes to play in that perimeter zone, free throw line and back. So you can still work. So I like this move from the 76ers standpoint. Boston, on the other hand, I'm hoping that they either flip Paul George or they're going to move a Derek White and get a better point guard or another forward that can shoot the three. Because not that Derek White is a bad player, but we saw him without Jason Tatum this year. Not so much, right? Didn't feel right. Didn't look right. But last thing, you got Tobias Harris going to San Antonio. I'm seeing mixed reviews on that. I don't think Tobias Harris necessarily solves anything that San Antonio was lacking. He might be a better shooter than some of these guys that they have on the roster, but I don't see him. You brought back Champagnie. So I just feel like you could have used that money elsewhere. Granted, only 2 years, $31 million. So I can't complain about it at all, but just something that stood out to me. I'm not going to say it's a bad move because anytime you can get another veteran in the locker room with a team like that, it can't but help, especially a veteran that, for lack of better words, has been in pressure situations in the playoffs and has not necessarily always responded. So, but to finish this off, I like the move for the Sixers. I think they can be a force to be reckoned with, but of course that's going to be dependent on Joel Embiid's health. Boston, work in progress. We'll see how the rest of the offseason goes. But like, review, subscribe, share, rate, do all the free things, do all the good things. Have you a liquid death in your hand? Tonight's choice, though, Smoothie King. Get you some of that meal replacement up in you. I will be back throughout the next couple of weeks, but Sports Reports is on a break as far as myself and Mr. Logical. We'll be back on July 14th as we start transitioning to football, but I'll be checking in periodically. Thanks for the love and support. See ya when I see ya. Sports Reports is ordered. Out.
Sports reports, no gimmicks, no clowns. 2-5, Mr. Logical, we run this town. Real talk only, no chasing, no doubt. From the east to the west, it's the order we shout. Mic check, lights flash, game time, stay ready. 2 vets in the zone, keep the pressure real heavy. Big hits, big plays, yeah, we breaking it down. Truth rings in your speakers, every word is the crown. From the north side hustle to that southern flame. Midwest grind, west coast of the game. Sports talk kings, yeah, we wear that crown. Turn it up, let them know it's about to go down. Sports reports, no gimmicks.